welcome back. Today I want to show you Delta. This is from Matthew C, and this level covers single and multiple digit division. In Matthew C, all the lessons are taught for you, which I absolutely love. So you can get it on DVD or you can stream it through their website. I always get the DVD because we don't have the best internet, but you may prefer streaming. Okay, so you're going to want the instructor's manual as well. You can get all three or just these two. There's different options when you purchase. The instructor's manual is important because it has lessons in here. So in case you don't understand something on the video, or if you prefer to read it and then teach it to your child, that's great for that. They also have all of the answers for the student book in the back, including for the test booklet. So lesson tests. So I highly recommend this. I don't ever use these for any level that often, but sometimes if I need to figure out how to do a problem, I can just look at the answer, and as you can see, the answers show the work to get there, which is really nice. That's very, very helpful. So I always like having these around. All right, so you have the student workbook and the test booklet. There's one test for every chapter. I don't normally use these. I think my son maybe couldn't find his math book 1 or 2 days, so he did them in here. But I normally use these in the case of them having a hard time with the concept, and then the whole week's worth are still having trouble. Then I'll use the worksheet in here as an extra lesson page. There's also unit tests throughout that cover multiple chapters. They're a little bit longer than just a chapter test, about 4 pages. And they also have a final test at the back. So the unit test, and then the final test. Usually about 4 pages. If I have them do a final test, I'll split it up over 2 days usually. I normally only use the unit test or final test if they've had trouble with something earlier in the year. Then I'll do that to make sure that they still remembered the concept they learned before I move on. Okay, so here's the student workbook. So here's the table of contents and the things they'll be covering in this book. You'll notice it only goes to 30. Each chapter is 6 lessons. There's also a G one that's an optional enrichment kind of thing. You don't have to do those. We do because they're kind of fun and just a different way of thinking about math sometimes. So you can use the test and check them off, or put the scores, whatever you want to do. It shows when the unit tests are. I almost never use this page because you just open it and go to the next page that we're on. So it's not much point in doing that. My son just started this a week or 2 ago. He really likes it. This is a little bit of review for the last book. I've noticed all the Matthew C levels start with a little bit of review, which is really nice because then it gives the kids confidence and they think, oh, this is easy. I can do this one. No problem. So the first 3 pages, you have A, B, and C. That's all the new concept. And then you have D, E, and F, which is the new concept plus review of previous concepts in the book. That's how it is for every chapter. And then G, it's just a division fact sheet. G is the enrichment. So it's like color by number, but it's color by number based on what factors the numbers have. And then some problems you can do. All the enrichments are a little bit different, but they're really fun to do. One thing I want to be aware of with this program is that it does not follow Common Core. So it goes very in-depth for each topic and then also has review built in, but it's not Common Core related at all. So what that means is if you need to test your child for state records or for your own records, most times they'll probably do really great. My kids always do very, very well in their math tests. Once in a while, you get a doozy and it's like, whoa, you guys all went down, 10 percentage points, but normally they're very high 90s. And I think that just has to do with the order that this is taught in, because if the public students, like if your state follows Common Core and they've gotten to concepts you haven't gotten to yet, obviously they're not going to test well on those things they don't know on the test. But if you have covered these things way more in depth than normal public school students usually do, I think, then you're going to test very well. So that's important too, just keep that in mind. I'm pretty sure when I was in elementary school, it was all spiral. And what spiral means is, so one year you have a base layer and the next layer, or the next year you have the same stuff, just deeper in each thing. And the next year, the same stuff, but deeper I do not like that method of learning for most subjects, especially not math. I was never very good at math because of that, I think. Because, I don't remember something to spend a week on. I don't remember till next year. At least I never did. But my kids are fantastic in math. This program has been such a huge boon to our family. Their mental math skills are incredible. They're so good at math. Even my son that struggles with math still gets like 89-90% on his state tests. And his math recall is just fantastic. You'll notice all the pages are perforated, so if you need to tear out anything to keep work samples, it's very easy. Some states require you to have a portfolio or work samples to do, depending on where you are. That's nice to have for that. My sons on their last books, a little before this one, they were both tearing out each page they were done. It made more room in their boxes. They have boxes full of their individual stuff. But it's much easier to get lost that way because it gets smaller and smaller and slides under couches easier. So I don't recommend that, but if that works for your kid, that might be satisfactory for them to just tear it out. You'll notice there's lots of word problems, which I really like. My kids are really good at word problems. I never was. I remember being in elementary school and not even knowing how to do word problems, just guessing numbers. It's probably like first grade, but I'm very glad that all the levels have word problems. Pretty much every lesson. symbols and tables cheat sheet in case you forget different things, and they have a glossary, and then at the end they have the certificate. Anyway, I highly recommend this. Please like and subscribe, it really helps the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.